I think you are one of the best moderators I've ever seen. And it's true. And that is absolutely, I would say that to anyone. I think I'm actually pretty sure I have said it publicly.
You have, actually. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And I'd like to look at the mechanics and the preparation that goes into that. Because you've talked to me about this, and I remember one of the examples, again, which is hyper-specific, which is if you guys are on Zoom, which most people are not going to see, like raising your hand and using visual cues for things. So could you walk through what the preparation process looks like for a good episode?
We build a docket every week for All In. The docket I took from Red Scare, which is like this dirtbag left podcast of these two women who live in the Dime Square in New York.
Right.
They're quite charming and hilarious. Probably a little cutting edge for some people. But anyway, the Red Scare podcast is hilarious. And Dasha always says, oh, what's on the docket? And they have a docket. Like, these are the people who we're going to pass judgment on, like before a judge. So we have a docket. I make a docket every week with my producer, Nick. And basically we're in a group chat, and whatever links we share that week, we put in there. And then we put bullet points.
So the docket is a Google Doc.
Yeah, Google Doc of topics.
And then this is put into a private Slack channel that you guys use or something like that? Okay.
Yeah, we're on Signal. Yeah. And so
Signal.
this way they all disappear within a week. Hard lessons to learn. Thank you for getting it. Yeah. So anyway, Signal. You can reach me on Signal.
So now, do you use desktop client for that to make it easier to use, or do you do it all on mobile?
Signal is desktop and mobile now. Yeah, it's pretty great. And it's not owned by the Russians.
Do you use mobile?
I use mobile and I use a desktop, yeah.
Okay, great.
Anyway, I have the bullet points in there. And I will sometimes push people to come up with topics. So like, hey, when Friedberg was kind of sitting back a lot in the episodes, I kind of dubbed him the Sultan of Science. And I kind of created this character. And I said, listen, you're kind of like a little bit of a wallflower last episode. Can you give me whatever the most interesting science story of the week is? And if I don't get one by, whatever, a day before taping, I'm like, hey, and maybe I'll do a little research myself. Hey, what do you think of this? Or what about that? And when I get a science topic out of him, I throw to him and, he just lights up. It's great. And then, Chamath will make a joke, or Sachs will go check his email. And then for Sachs, I throw him red meat. So like the red meat for Sachs is like anything political, anything to do with the Constitution, anything to do with the Supreme Court or legal cases. And then if I want to give an alley-oop to Chamath, so I think about it as the moderator, I got to get out of this guy, I got to get him engaged, Friedberg. I got to give him some science so that he gets excited, right? Because he's not excited to talk about politics because he doesn't like it. With Sachs, I got a tiger.
Yeah.
And or like a fierce tiger. And if I throw, a couple of chickens out there, he's going to maul them. And I know what they are. So I'm like, okay, here you go. Supreme Court decision. He loses his mind. Oh, here you go. Biden said this and it's inconsistent. Or boom, hey, here's something with Trump. He's going to just go crazy. So now you got your lion going crazy. You got your science nerd coming out of his shell. And then with Chamath, it's more like an alley-oop.
Sweaters.
Laura Piana. Conspicuous consumption. No, it really is more about markets and startups. And for him, I like to say to him, can you explain this financial topic and why people are talking about interest rates are bad for tech companies? Why would the interest rate have any impact on that? Now, I know the answer to that, but he can actually explain it better than anybody on the squad.
Yep.
So what I'm doing there as the point guard is like, I have a clear path to the basket. I can just lay it in and do the layup.
Mm-hmm.
But I see him out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, what would make the audience have a better experience is if I pretend I'm going to do the layup, and then from behind my back, I throw it up to him, and he slam dunks it, right? And so I've learned with each of them how to feature them and make them really their best selves. And then behind the scenes, when you see the point guard in basketball, like take somebody and they whisper in their ear something, I very quietly give them notes on their performance.
And this is after each episode?
After each show. I had to do it more earlier. And then sometimes I'll do it in the group chat if I think it's something everybody can benefit from. But more often than not, I'm doing it quietly.
Yep.
And so I had to say to Friedberg, listen, you don't say a lot about politics, but I think your opinion actually represents a large portion of the audience. And although you hate it, I think you expressing a little bit is going to be fine. And if you're not happy with how it comes out, and I think it's putting you at risk, I will tell you and we can cut it from the show.
Hmm.
And once I gave him that sort of like, I think a little bit of a clearer lane and encouragement, you will hear him talk a little bit more about politics, not to the extent Sachs does. And then I had to tell Sachs, hey, Sachs, when I ask you something or I challenge you, I am not disagreeing with you. I'm helping you clarify your position or helping the audience understand your position more.
That's very, very smart way to put it.
And you are attacking me, telling me I'm watching MSNBC and I get my information from Rachel Maddow. I didn't ask you to explain. Like one time I said, just to be clear, Putin invaded Ukraine, not Biden, correct? And he just went off or whatever. And I said, the reason I'm asking you that is because the audience thinks, and the feedback online is, you're a Putin apologist. It would help your position if you said to the audience, Putin and Putin alone is responsible for invading Ukraine. Now, how we manage Putin and his unjust, immoral invasion is, up to us, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we can debate. But I'm trying to save him from being misunderstood, right? And
You're like one part moderator, one part coach, one part comms director.
Well, in a way,
I'm not saying that is a bad thing. It's just
no. I think it's super accurate.
Yeah, you're helping everybody.
What I realized was you and I have done, hundreds of interviews with people. Great. It's awesome. We're both interested in people and learning from them and having great conversations. But this became something different for me, like being the orchestrator of the action.
Oh, it's a different skill.
It was a totally different skill. And, I had done these moderations before at events, but I had sometimes done roundtables, news roundtables, but a lot of times I was one of the featured players, not the point guard, right?
May I give one example of why they're totally different? In a one-on-one conversation, you can have a guest who monologues. If you have a group of people, that can be a huge problem. How do you deal with that specifically?
Yeah, there's two techniques.
Yeah.
Two techniques. Because you and I like technique. So the two techniques I have. One of them is I say to people beforehand, great job on the show today. At this moment in time, you made 4 really great points. It would have been better if you made your first 1 or 2 and then said, I'm really interested in what Sachs thinks of that. Or I'm curious, Sachs, what you think. And then you have those 2, just write them on a piece of paper there. There'll be time for those 2. We'll circle back around. But now it doesn't look like you're taking all the chips off the table. Because in a conversation with 4 smart people about a topic, there might be 5 good points to make. All 4 people might understand all 5 points or 4 of the points. And then if somebody comes in and they're just like, ding, 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 I just took all the good points.
Yeah.
There's nothing left for anybody else to do. And so you want to share the ball a little bit. You took 2 good points. You let somebody else make a good point. Yeah, you could have made that point. It was an obvious one. But you let somebody else have it. It's a little bit generous as a performer. So it'd be like, you got some incredible guitar player. They come out and they just do a solo of 6 minutes. And you're like, piano guy could have done a solo for a minute. You could have done 2. We could have given the drummer a minute. And we could have let the vocalist lead off the song with an a cappella, moment, right?
Yeah.
And so I've really tried to be better at it. And specifically tried to be better at it because people have been critical of me for interrupting certain people. And so I had to actually adapt to that. Because certain people, if you interrupt them, it's a trigger for them.
Yeah.
Or it can break their train of thought.
I ran into this recently and I wondered how would Jason handle this? I was curious.
So I came up with another one. I said, I'm going to give you the circle. So if people aren't watching right now, I'm just taking my index finger and I'm just giving the wrap up sign, but I'm also nodding. So I'm saying, good stuff. I'm giving you the good stuff, but like, hey, let's wrap that point. And then I'll just stop. And they finish their thought. And the other thing I do is I just use okay. And I got that from Sam Harris. I was listening to the Sam's podcast. He gets people monologuing. These are some of the most brilliant academics in the world on his show. And you'll see sometimes he wants to break in. But I think in academia, it's even more like difficult to do that. And he just said,
verboten. Yeah.
Verboten. That's the word I was looking for. My dyslexia was killing me on that one. I was like, verboten. Verboten. It's verboten, right? You let people finish. But he'll say, okay. And it's like, okay, I got it. Okay, you did it. And then the person's like, oh, Sam has something to add. and that's in a one-on-one situation. So, you get good by studying. I study a lot of what you do, and you have a way when you're asking a question of slowing down, and it's almost as if you're bringing us into your brain for the formation of the question. And that was me imitating you.
Yeah, I figured, yeah.
And when you do it, it's like somebody at a dinner party who's talking in a lower voice and everybody leans in. I know it's going to be a fucking important question when you do that. And I don't know if it's unconscious or it's conscious.
Yeah.
Or you are truly forming the question. But when listening to Tim Ferriss, when Tim slows down and Tim is thinking, I want to ask you one more question. I have it on this note here. Hold on. Now, it means it's a really important question. And it really does work as a technique. And everybody's techniques doesn't have to work for everybody. Like, I talk fast.
Yeah.
You talk a little slower, more methodically. Sam talks even, more monotone.
He speaks in finished prose.
Unless it's about Trump, and then he gets on tilt.